Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon on this beautiful, sunny, chilly, everything else day of December. What is this? December the 17th. I am Portia Wheatley. I am the founder and the president of a nonprofit organization acknowledged as Trophy of Life Incorporated, where we have the opportunity, the privilege, and best of all, the God assignment to render hope and encouragement to everyone we actually encounter, everyone that we're able to have a conversation with, everyone that's under the sound of my voice. We have that opportunity to share when the time presents itself, because if it's not the right time, it's not the right time to say something good. But when the time comes and the door is open and the curtain is pulled back and you have the opportunity, I say it. So today, I have the great privilege and the honor to introduce to some and to present to others. That sounds like a church, kind of like colloquialism, in the sense of that's what the church folks say, present to some and introduce to others. But today, I'm sharing my platform with a friend of mine who I was introduced to several years ago when I was doing Celebration of Survival. This young lady, she has a story to tell, and we were just chatting to say that it is amazing how God operates in the sense of the timing for her to bring her story, her personal experience to the world today, to be able to encourage and to uplift and to empower this time of the year. And I am so grateful that we remain in contact with each other. I'm just blessed. Before I present the platform to her, I would just ask if you would go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, because this message, not just this one, but the messages that Trophy of Life shares over this platform, it's taken around the world. And I'm grateful to God to be his instrument in doing so. But when you become a part of our team, and you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you do the same thing I'm doing. You may not be able to travel personally or physically across the whole wide world, but you're able to share in our message, the message that God has given my guests to come and share a message across the world. And you become a part of that. And I am so grateful. You reach people that I may not be able to reach, but you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Put my name in, a Trophy of Life, Portia Wheatley. Bam, it comes up. So today, what's the other saying? Without any further ado, I am going to present Lady Mrs. Lori Tushek to our audience. Lori, thanks again for accepting my invitation to come and just share from your heart. I really believe that individuals will be blessed by what you have to share. It's all yours.
Hi, Portia. I hope everyone can hear me. Thank you so much for inviting me, and it's been such a privilege and honor getting to know you. You do such amazing work, and to be able to come on today too and to share my story it feels like such a God blessing, because for me, ever since coming through the trauma that I had, it feels like my purpose to be able to give back. And it's kind of the only thing that makes sense for me anymore. So I'm not sure where you want me to start or how you'd like to proceed, but just let me know.
Let's start where what happened with your family, so that they'll know and have an idea of what you've come through and the journey that you come through.
Okay. Before I do start, if there are viewers out there who have some trauma in their backgrounds, just a little bit of a trigger warning. Some of it is not very pleasant. But I'm happy to share and fortunately blessed to be able to share some of the deep and dark and ugly with from a healed perspective and be able to talk about it now without the pain that I've had in the past. So I grew up in a home filled with domestic violence, and my father was an avid hunter. But unfortunately, those guns were used against family and threats against our family. My mother had been threatened with them. He was also abusive. You know, my earliest memory of trauma was probably around the age of about 5 years old. And I had a younger brother that was a year younger, and like all little kids, we fight and scrap with each other. But on this particular day, my dad grabbed me and threw me down. I had scratched my brother with my fingernails, and he grabbed me and threw me down on the ground on the floor and took his fingernails and, pinned me to the floor and raked his nails down across my face. But he didn't have fingernails, just scratched me. So he jumped up and he ran into the closet and he grabbed a hanger. And he came back and grabbed me and threw me down and he ripped the hanger down the side of my face. That was my earliest memory. And it wasn't just myself, though. Like I said, my mother had also been at the hands of my father. He punched her, broke her nose. There were threats with the gun. I have a memory of my mother and my father arguing in the kitchen, and my mother come running past me down the hallway and going to the gun cabinet to grab a gun to go shoot my mother. And he turned around with the gun in his hand, and there I sat. And he looked at me, and fortunately he didn't go after me. It stopped him in his tracks, and he didn't go after my mother. He ended up going out the front door. So those are the types of things that we dealt with. And we didn't always know where the boundaries were, too. We always walked around the house on eggshells, kind of don't make dad mad, because we never knew when he was going to explode. He would hold in his emotions and his feelings and until it got to the point where he would explode at times, and we didn't know when that would happen. I left home at about the age of 18. And for many years didn't look back very much. But what I want to say is that when I was around the age of 42, 43, it was in the year of January 2004. My father at that point had remarried to another woman and had another daughter. And he ended up in domestic disputes with her, and she was leaving him, and he went overboard, and he ended up committing triple murder and suicide. He shot and killed his wife, his daughter, his daughter's boyfriend, and then he committed suicide and shot himself. That trauma, when that happened, what that did to me is really difficult to describe, but it brought back a lot of things that had not yet been healed. At that point, years ago, at the age of around 20, I had some counseling that helped kind of put me back together. And I went off to college. And by this point, I had married, had my own son, and had started a life of my own. I didn't know that there were still things within myself that had not been healed, and emotions and things that I had repressed. So I had memories of things that happened, but the emotion to them I was disconnected from. And when that event happened, all the unhealed stuff came forward in a huge way. I had flashbacks that were so intense that I started to experience dissociation, where I was so involved with the flashbacks that I lost touch with my outer world and the people who were around me. And what that did is that, it made ordinary everyday living very, very difficult. I had horses at the time, and I would try to go take care of my horses, and I'd be watering the horses. And an hour later, I'd be standing there with the water hose in my hand, and water had been running on the ground for like an hour and a half with the buckets overflowing because I had been stuck in those memories. I would burn things on the stove. It was very, very hard for my family, the stress that happened. And I went into PTSD. I went into kind of a battle for almost a year and a half. I sought counseling. I sought help. I had to see a psychiatrist and get medications because I absolutely could not sleep. The thoughts were so intrusive that my mind would not shut down. And I literally could not sleep. It was almost an impossibility to sleep. And if I did fall asleep, it was maybe a half an hour and I was awake with from nightmares, and then the intrusive thoughts and the flashbacks would be back. So I was in crisis, and it put my family in crisis. And at the time too, I kind of skipped some things, but I had to deal with my father's death, his body, and we had to deal with the repercussions of the law, as well as handling his affairs afterwards, which also kind of added to the trauma that I had already experienced. So it was kind of, the situation was a trauma on top of a trauma. And after a year and a half, I became very, very ill from stress and PTSD. And I was really losing the battle. I started having heart problems. I started having other neurological type issues, and started seeing a neurologist. And it was just, my health was just snowballing in a downward spiral. And I was at the point where I was in ambulance rides to emergency rooms because of it. And one night, I just felt like this was it. I couldn't go anymore. I couldn't do anymore. And this is going to make me cry, but it's happy tears at this point. But it was at that night, at my lowest, kind of hitting bottom in life. I got down on my knees that night and I just prayed to a God I wasn't sure at that point was there. And God, as a God, please, please, please help me. And this energy, all I can say is this energy just swept through my body, this tingly,
Yes,
spirit,
yes.
spirit sparks. I call them spirit sparks, just swept through. And within about 2 weeks from that point, events in my life changed, and I was brought to the people that I needed to help me heal. And it took me about an 8-month journey with a practitioner that I met, who was a holistic practitioner. And I slowly began to heal, and my life has changed in such enormous and profound ways. Um, so yeah, where it has brought me today, I guess, Portia and I kind of spoke about this, is that, how can I smile after being through this and surviving this, and live a life, and be happy. And I guess the message that I wanted to give is that no matter at this point is that no matter how dark things are, no matter how grave they seem, no matter what the circumstance is, whether you're going through trauma or, we're in right now here at Christmas time. I know there's so much stress around Christmas and people losing loved ones, but we have all the things going in the world, the Ukraine and Russia war and those threats. And with all those things, what I want to say is that no matter how dark it is, there's always something good that can come out of it. And for me, where it has brought me today and the level of healing, for me, I've actually have gotten to the point where I forgave my father, and not just forgave my father, but also forgave myself for the judgments that I carried. It was more of a letting go. Forgiveness is inclusive of self and other. Deep, deep, deep forgiveness is inclusive of self and other. And it's a profound letting go that brings the peace that it brings, the joy that it brings, the compassion that it brings is huge. And where it has brought me, I'm grateful now for my father, for what he taught me and for what happened. It's not that I condone those things; they're terrible things, and no one should have to experience those. But because of those things, they have brought me to where I am today, that I would have never, ever, probably ever have imagined or even have sought to reach had these things not happened. So it was kind of the rainbow in the storm, and the levels of forgiveness and love and joy that it's brought to my life is enormous. So that the good is always, always there. And we can let things either make us bitter or we can let them make us better. And when we choose to be better, and we align ourselves with God or our higher power, and we align ourselves with the unconditional love, with the it just it's like someone kind of once, like was speaking with someone, and she likened it to being in an airport. And you know how when you're in an airport and you have those little conveyor belts, that you stand on, and they
Right.
kind of whisk you through. That when like coming to God and coming to the space of awareness is kind of like getting on one of those conveyor belts, and life just starts taking you faster and faster, and getting you where you want to go. And it's just it changes everything, and it changes everything around you begins to change as well. So what I've come to understand too is that no matter how dark, when that darkness happens and those good things happen, if we always keep our eye on our north, or true north, on God, when we keep our eye on the good things that come out of it, to me, that's where grace is. I don't know how you feel about that, Portia, but for me, that's when I experience God's grace. And that's
Yes.
when that's when grace flows in my life.
I'm having a little fit over here because I know it is only because of God's grace. Because
Yeah.
of God's grace. I want a couple of questions for you. One in particular was talk a little bit about the forgiveness. I knew that had to be key because I knew a little of your story and your experience, but that forgiveness part, just share a little about that, because right after that, I have another question for you.
Okay. Yeah, I've actually written a book about this. I have a book in the works. It's called A Shock to the Heart: How to Forgive Murder, Abuse, and All that things. And so I talk about that forgiveness and how to forgive that. And what it really comes down to is looking at the cost. When we see the cost, it's really easy to let go, because having that unforgiveness and the cost and what it does to ourself, the self-judgments that I carried, the judgments against my father, how they hurt me. I almost died because of it. The stress that it created was part of the and parcel of the PTSD. And it was eating at me. It was literally making me sick and killing. And when you look at the cost and what it's costing you and what you're missing out today on the love that surrounds you, that love is always there.
The love is
And
always
you
there.
always there. And that cost is keeping you from that love. It's quite profound when you really look at it. So when you look at the cost, look at who it's hurting too, because the person who you have that judgment against probably couldn't care less whether you hate them or not. And who's it hurting? It's hurting ourselves.
Yes,
So
and
that
they have gone on with their lives. They have gone on with their lives, and we're still holding it and
right.
internalizing it and
Yeah.
causing us to be sick, physically sick,
Yeah.
spiritually sick, emotionally sick, when they could care less. So that my spiritual father, Bishop Ralph Dennis, had done a series on forgiveness. I'm gonna have to try to find that, because this world really needs forgiveness, because it's more so about me, the
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
rather than the person that did the
Yeah.
offense. And
Yeah.
once we forgiven, have to forgive them, forgive us, and go on with our lives and watch us bloom. I like to call it a it's like the work that a butterfly goes through, the
Yes.
metamorphosis.
Yeah.
And then when you bloom, you're like, all of that, this is
Yeah.
who I am. But
Yeah.
we have to have that forgiveness. And I think family members have to realize some of the issues or the matters or the experiences that other siblings have gone through, so that they can understand what they're experiencing. If you don't know what a person is going through, you're just looking at that now. But when you think about, not to hold it over their head, but when you think about how they were brought up, what they were taught, what was told to them, never an encouraging word, never something on the order of, you can do this, I trust you, I believe in you, all of those things. But instead of that, they have just negative in reinforcements with them, to them, as a result of that other parent's life. But when you can actually stand in your truth and say, like you, Lori, I've been through this, I've experienced this, I've experienced that, but I've come through, I've forgiven, I turn to God. That's number one. Turning to God and allow him, ooh, ooh, and allow him to scale off all of those layers of hurt, pain, disappointment. Only God can do that and have you to present a smile to the world.
Yeah, yeah.
It is amazing.
Yeah, I also liken it to, that, when we're wounded and we're carrying those wounds, we end up bleeding on the people around us. And, it's not a loving thing, not a helpful thing in our lives when we're bleeding all over everybody. And, so when we heal those wounds and we find that forgiveness, not only is it for ourselves, it's actually for the whole world, because every advance we make in ourselves really serves mankind in so many different ways. To the person that you meet on the street, to the person in the grocery store, whoever it is, as well as your family members, or your significant other, your spouse, your children. Any advance, that we make in ourselves just kind of ripples outwards. Make a picture like a rock going into a pond, and that forgiveness and the love that comes from that just ripples outwards. The energy that creates, the loving energy, it just really influences everything. And, it's sort of like, if you imagine a sea and a boat in the sea, and kind of raising the level of the sea, and the ship, everybody raises with it. So I think it's important work because of that. And not only is it helping ourselves, but it's powerful. It's that powerful.
Yes.
And yeah,
Definitely powerful, because when you come into your own, it's nothing more empowering to know that I can speak. My voice matters. My presence matters.
Yeah.
Wherein before you would always wait for someone to validate you.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's more so because a lot of times because of our upbringing. But when you can step into who God has created you to be, and your purpose in life. I'm always talking about purpose because it took me a while to find what my purpose was. But once I got it, and I move forward with it.
Yeah.
When we know who we are in Christ, and you know what, really, you could have been a very bitter person. You said something earlier to that point. Either the situations that come our way can either make us bitter or they can make us better.
Yeah.
One of the things I would like to, let me ask you this, and then I will make my comment. Did you have family members that you could share once you were an adult? Did you have family members that you could share your experience with, and they actually took the time to listen?
At first, it was really hard. When I was in the worst of it, it was really hard on my family. Since then, yes. And as I was going through it, doing some of that with my husband, my son was too small at that point. But at that point, I still hadn't been very close with my mother. But it actually ended up, as I went through my own healing, brought my mother back to me, and we were able to heal that relationship. And my mother and I are so close to this day. Actually, I'm going to cry. I love her now so dearly. She might even be watching, I'm not sure, but
Hi, Mom.
I love you. But yeah, and My son was very, very small. When he got older, I have started to share some of that with him. He never really knew who his grandfather was.
Mhm.
And when that happened, he was too young to really to talk about it yet. So, once he was older and able to understand, we did address those things. And I think there's still more though that I could probably share, kind of thinking about that. And I just might share my book with him. So
Right. You
it
never know.
may help as well. Yeah.
God has great plans for your life. One of the piggyback comment that I wanted to make is to our audience to take the time to listen when people are going through an experience. You can usually tell when it's kind of like off the wall conversation, in a sense, oh, you just want to talk. But when they're actually taking the moment to share their heart and to share their emotions and to share what they're going through, they need someone to listen to
Yes.
them. They
Yeah,
need
it
someone
really,
to listen.
yeah, that really matters, having that support. And one thing that I realized too is that um, not to expect other people to always to understand, but at least for them to listen non-judgmentally and just be there is so important.
It really is. It really is. And the question to our audience is, what can you do to support someone who's either going through or have trauma, have had trauma? We can't be there for everyone, but we can definitely take the time with someone, because you never know when the tide is going to turn and you will need someone. One of the examples is when I became a widow. It was like my eyes then opened up to the strength of other widows. But I had to ask God to forgive me for waiting to reach out until I became that person. So I'm like, growing up, I wanted to. There was one lady in particular who, a lot of the young people would flock to her house because she just had a warm spirit. However, when they would share, you will hear her share it with someone else. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to be that person. I want to be who you called me to be. I want to be um, not a trash can, not a dumping ground, but someone that when someone has an issue to talk about or experience or a matter that they need someone to listen, they can talk
Yeah,
to me, but it stays there.
yeah,
It stays there, because it's nothing like someone hurting you when you thinking you're confiding in a person and they go and share it with someone else.
yeah,
But when you have someone that can listen to you and not judge you, because there there are individuals that have experienced some things in their lives, and they may be good friends of others, but if you knew what was in their closet, if you knew what skeletons were in their closets, or some things that they have gone through in life, you may not want to be their friend.
yeah,
However, we can't judge. Don't be judgmental.
yeah, yeah.
Woo! Okay.
And I guess just on one point I'd like to mention about that and the judgment is that when we are judging other people, and when it comes to forgiveness, and if we are holding on to those judgments and have not let them go, we really haven't looked at the depth of our own darkness and our own stuff. Because when we do, we acknowledge those things, we can never hold them over another person, no matter what
Yeah.
they've done. Maybe it's different things, maybe they're things that you've never done, but we're all at the basic core of our humanness, and we all have those things. So
The
if we
basic core
haven't,
of our humanness. I like that.
yeah, yeah.
Definitely so. Well, anything else you want to share, Lori? I think I really appreciate it, because this time of year is so important to actually share the love of Jesus Christ. It's all about
Yeah,
him anyway,
yeah,
but we need
yeah,
to share it, not try to just look it on the outside in the clothes we wear, in the cars we ride, the houses that we live in, the gifts that we buy other people. But it's Christ living within us so that we can show the love of God. That's important. Are you
yeah.
good? You have anything else to share?
I just, with Christmas and the spirit of Christmas, and for me, it's all about, the spirit of love, and that Christmas really shouldn't be just celebrated or, have that spirit of love just at Christmas, but it should be an all the year thing. Yeah. And I also, I wanted to say that, if you're someone right now who's really struggling and you can't quite get there yet, it's okay. Don't judge yourself for that, but just know that there are people that can help you, that there is a God who is standing beside you, just waiting just to help you, and, call upon him, and just amazing things can happen. Amazing things can happen.
Amazing.
And, you too can get there. If I did it, coming through what I did, you can too, no matter what you're facing at the moment. So
Oh, that
hope
is
is
so
always
good.
hope.
Hope is always is there. It's right there. We have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I really want to holler right about now. I have a friend of mine. I have a friend of mine, Dr. Noreen Davis. I was with her on a Zoom, and I feel like what she wanted to do, and that's take a leap, run around and come back to the camera. Noreen, you started something. Anyway, okay, we're closing out. I am so appreciative that you came and shared with us. Let's remain connected. We're going to remain connected.
Let's. And before you go, I have one thing that I wanted to share, kind of in the spirit of Christmas. For anyone that might be interested, I love the practice of mindfulness, and living in the present moment kind of gets us out of the wounds of the past. And I have a mindful moment meditation video that I'd like to give away as a free Christmas gift to anybody that wants it. So if anybody wants it, put it in the comments below, and we'll hook up, and I can get that meditation video out to you as my Christmas gift to you.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, just remember to live in the moment too. Live in the moment. And don't be out there buying gifts when you know you don't have the money to. Give them something like a conversation, in-person conversation. Give people something that's valuable, not something that they're going to throw in the closet, or something they have 3 and 4 things of. Something meaningful that they will hold on to for years to come. And when you practice that mindfulness, after you view Lori's video, yeah, beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. The memories are long lasting. Well, we're going to leave you for today. And just know that December, for the month of December, is just all about good news. Good news. I want to hear about your good news, and not just me. People in this world need to hear about good news. I know the scripture says, lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the world. But sometimes we feel like we're all alone. That's the enemy that's trying to make you feel, okay, I can't do this anymore. But that's him. He's on his job. Let's be on ours. Be on our job. So I want to hear about your good news. The world needs to hear about your good news. So let me know. Contact me at trophyoflife@gmail.com or Portia@trophyoflife.org. One or the other. We need to hear about the things that are happening in your life that will put people into a good space, a good place, and the things that God has done in their lives, what God has brought them out, what God has brought them out of, brought them through, whatever it is. It's so much news, so many bad things happening in the news. We have to overpower it with good news. All right. So this is Good News December 2022, and we're going to share some more good news with you, whether it's tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and do it again. Let's flood December with good news. All right. So much has been said. Please share, and share again, so that somebody will know that there is hope, there is good news, and of course, there's Jesus Christ. Blessings to you. Thank you so much again, Lori. I appreciate you. God bless until we see each other again.
Yeah. Thank you, Portia. Bless you.